Hello folks, this is a video about my hero's path in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So what is the hero's path? Well, you might have already guessed, if you didn't already know. It's a feature that shows you the path that you've taken through the entire game. It stores about 200 hours of gameplay, and the bar is about a quarter filled for me, so I think my total game time has been about 45 hours, if I had to guess, but yeah. So first I'm showing you this very sped up version, which is gonna last about 2 minutes. And after that I have a much slower version, which was recorded at the slowest speed, at the second closest zoom level. And it was sped up twice to reach 60 frames per second, which helps minimize the little animation time of the teleportation and the death scream. And yeah. I'm gonna be commentating over that one. Because I feel like I have a lot of memories, a lot of little interesting stories and just moments I remember that I guess I want to talk about. Because this game is so vast and full of things to see and explore, and when I saw the hero's path at the start of the DLC, the Champion's Ballad DLC, which by the way is just starting on screen right now, you see those 20 deaths in a row on the Great Plateau? Yeah. Well, I figured, you know what? Yeah, I realized, man, there's so much I haven't seen, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I guess I'll try going a bit more out of my way and explore a few of the corners that I haven't seen. And even then, even when I did that on purpose, there's still so much ground I haven't covered, so I'll probably go back to it and like try to at least see everything. Alright, so I'm pretty much commentating this live with minimal editing, so let's go. My first moments exploring are still a really vivid memory. Kinda messed around in the forest, and then I was like, you know what, no, that forest just seems too large, so I went kinda straight for the tower, and I think I just died experimenting with the fall damage, and that was my first death ever. Then a few more deaths over there to the Guardian, and then I went to cross that chasm to the shrine, and then climbed up the mountain, and my first cold area, and that was just such a striking moment. I remember I was just so panicking because, you know, the cold constantly making my frail hearts go down, and I didn't have any protective gear or anything like that, so I just like really hurried up, panicking towards my objective. Then, you know, just kept going, got the paraglider, and went down towards the dueling peaks, which I guess is probably where most players went on the first time. I tried to get a horse and I did not succeed, so I continued on foot onwards to Kakariko village. I can't remember why, it might have been a side quest, but I went up the cliff next to the village and I think I missed the Great Fairy Fountain, and I saw the tower in the distance and I went straight for it. And going straight for towers when I saw them is just a thing I often did. If I saw a tower in the distance, I was like, I want to unlock that, because, you know, they make great fast travel points, because once you warp to the top of them, you get to paraglide down a long distance, and that's just really useful. I think right there I was doing the blue flame thing to unlock the Hateno Tech Lab, and then I might have been doing a couple of quests for it, I'm not sure. So at this point I think most players went for the Zora domain and their first Divine Beast, because the game pretty much directs you towards there, all solo and everything. And others probably went to Hyrule Castle Town Ruins to kind of feel it out once they felt prepared to see what's the deal with this area. But instead I just went back west and explored the south of Hyrule Field, and I saw the big tower at the top of Gerudo Canyon, so I went straight for it. And that's how I ended up doing the Gerudo Divine Beast as my first one, when I think a lot of players did the Zora one first. So I explored the Oasis a little bit, then I saw the other tower over there, you know, the one that's in the middle of a huge bottomless pit, but unfortunately I couldn't get to it. I tried crossing the desert to the Gerudo town, and I fell on my first time because of the heat, and I found out that I can't get to it because I'm not a woman. Then I think I just kinda tried exploring southeast because I might have not felt prepared, or maybe it was a side quest. I think I might have just wanted to see if there was a tower down there. I saw that little island with a shrine, so I paraglided down to it, and then I saw the big island, and I also tried getting to it, but I ran out of stamina halfway through. Then I went back to Gerudo Town, and then I can't remember what I did back and forth. Either way, at this point I was basically working my way towards the first Divine Beast. I was jumping from the desert tower a lot, and you know, with the huge sprawling desert and mountain vista, that was really memorable. Now I finally got that bottomless pit tower. I think it's called the Wasteland Tower, right? And then I'm in the Yuga hideout doing the quest, the main quest that leads up to the Gerudo Divine Beast. That was a surprising moment for me because it was such an enclosed space in the middle of such a huge open mountains, almost like a mini dungeon of sorts, right? It was an abrupt change of pace and interesting to say the least. And here I'm gonna be doing the Divine Beast, and that doesn't really show up on the map. It is right here, that's the Divine Beast. It's, you know, an isolated location, so it doesn't really show on this timeline. The disjointed path right before that was the battle that each Divine Beast has before you access it. So here I think I wanted to explore the dueling peaks some more. I remember I tried to access shrines, kind of fell to my death a couple times because I didn't have enough stamina to climb all the way up there. I did a few more things in Hateno village, and then I went up to Mount Laneru, where I saw my first instance of extreme cold and also the first dragon. I think that's when I found out about the mechanic that lets you aim your bow in slow motion in the air. Then once more from the Great Plateau Tower, I decided to head straight south, through the Bridge of Helia, because to the west I had the Gerudo and Wasteland Towers, and on the east I had the Hateno Tower, I think. So south and center, my map was feeling pretty empty. Then I kept exploring further to the southeast, and then the east towards, I guess, the more jungle area of the game. And again, I wasn't really feeling up to exploring a large foresty area. So I went back to do a few more things in the areas I knew of, and then I decided it was time to head northwest. I got a tower in the center of Hyrule Field, and then I went for the one, you know, the one where it's permanently stormy in the middle of all these mushrooms and stuff. Had some trouble getting there, and then, I know, I'm just gonna paraglide down from the cliff next to it, and that made climbing it a lot easier. Then I finally got a horse, and I made my way around the big canyon, and I remember going on a horse around that stretch of land. That was very memorable. Then I climbed atop the Heber Tower, and eventually the Tubunfed Tower, which was a bit more troublesome, as you can see. And I had come pretty much just for the purpose of unlocking the towers. And once I had gotten them, I decided to explore the northeast this time. I unlocked the Laneru Tower, and then I found myself where I should have been like 5 hours ago, the Zora's Domain. Here, it's permanently raining until you defeat the Divine Beast, so you cannot climb up walls, and being forced to follow a set path was a nice change of pace after, you know, being left to my own devices for so long. Eventually, you have to sneak past where a Lionel lives, and as you can see, I wasn't being very successful with that. Immediately after that, there's the preliminary battle with the Divine Beast where you circle around it on Sidon's back. Took me a little while, it was a bit tricky, and then there's the Divine Beast, and then it's over, and the Divine Beast is done, and that's 2 out of 4. Slightly speeding up things more here, I made my way further north and ooh, what's this? Another tower, right next to some spooky woods, I wonder what's up with that. So yeah, the path through the Lost Wood looks interesting. You can see my avatar jumping back every time it hits the invisible walls that say, oh, you're going the wrong way, we're gonna warp you back a little bit. But it doesn't actually do the warping animation with the circle here in the Hero's Path display. So I worked my way through the 4 shrines of the Korok Forest, and tried to go for the Master Sword. As you can see in the middle, that's the death right there. I didn't have enough hearts to pull it out. I didn't know about this, of course. And I didn't think the game would actually kill me, but it was pretty cool to find out that yes, it did anyway. It's only then that I found out about the Great Fairy Fountain next to Kakariko, and here I unlocked a memory. Number 15, Return of Calamity Ganon, the last thing you want in your house. Okay, never mind. Anyway, there I went to explore the Great North. I mean, that was like a very interesting white snowfield. Did that little labyrinth, kinda try to cheat around it by, you know, climbing on the top of it, but yeah. Then of course I had to go in the opposite direction to see if there was anything interesting that way. Just a shrine. And I was like, you know what? That building on the map in the Gerudo Desert, that kinda looks like the same labyrinth I just completed, so I just went and did it. I figured I would explore the desert some more. I think the Ice House is like that quest where you have to fetch a block of ice, and like that kind of systems-driven side quest with the temperature system and the shadows. Breath of the Wild's systems are just really strong and well designed, but of course you probably already know about that. But in case you don't, that's one of the reasons the game is so good, and I really strongly recommend you play it, because, I don't... like, words fail me when it comes to describing how smartly its systems are put together and make the foundation of all the gameplay. And like, if you don't know about Breath of the Wild or you never played it yourself, seriously, come on, do it. Even if you didn't like past Zelda games. But then I wonder how you made it and listen to this video of me just talking about memories of playing Zelda. That would be a little weird. Did a bit of running around that beach there. I just kinda liked that cliff area, it was just quite mysterious, and that island still kinda taunting me in the distance. I explored the jungle a bit more, especially that area, the path towards the shrine, and it actually really strongly reminded me of Dragon Age Inquisition. So ever since you saw me leave Korok Forest about 2 minutes ago, I've been trying to get the Master Sword, but for that I need more hearts. And to get more hearts, I need to complete more shrines. So I explored, searching for new shrines, but also warping back to previous ones that I had unlocked but not completed. I went to turn all of my spirit orbs into hearts, and then I had enough. I got the Master Sword. With that done, I set out for the northeast once more, after getting the tower at the base of Death Mountain. Then I jumped into Akkala through the top of Zora's domain and died from fall damage because I didn't have enough stamina. And of course, I immediately set out for the nearby tower. That one is quite tricky and well guarded. It took me a little while to figure out how to climb it. However, I figured it was about time I maybe set my sights on another divine beast. The Rito village sent me to the flight range for the preliminary preparations, and then it was time to fly up there, and I think the disjointed path you see right here is me on Teba's back, and then that's a divine beast, here and there, and it's done. And that is 3 out of 4. I think that was probably the coolest one, because I really liked seeing all of Hyrule down there. Kinda wish I could explore the really Google Earth, low-poly version of it, honestly. And after that, well, I went for the last divine beast up Death Mountain. As you saw 20 seconds ago, I died right away trying to get up there, so I made some preparations, tried to gather heat-resistant stuff, and then I could make the trip a bit more safely. I really liked the little area where I died first, with like all the hot, steamy water sources. It kinda reminded me of the geysers I saw in Iceland. That area really reminded me a lot of its Skyward Sword counterpart. So there I am going up the mountain in that sort of forced stealth escort mission sequence. It wasn't super cool, I think. It was a bit clunky. And then I did the Divine Beast, and that was it. 4 out of 4! Anyway, speaking of Skyward Sword, I will say my favorite area in that game was the Lanayru Sand Sea, no contest whatsoever. After completing the Divine Beast, I jumped from the top of the volcano into a path that eventually led me to the northeast of Akkala. I didn't do the Blue Flame because it was way harder than the one in Hateno, so then I figured it was just about time to go to Hyrule Castle and kick Ganon's ass. I explored the lower levels a bit, but mostly tried to avoid all the trouble on the way in. And there we go, the Defeat Ganon quest is complete. Well, the game resets to before it is, so I don't think the time where I beat him actually shows up in the hero's timeline. On the way out, I grabbed the memory from the plaza. Then, now that I had enough stamina, I attempted Eventide Island, and when I discovered what it was, I was like, oh no. It was tricky and took me a while. I resumed my hunt for the missing memories and looked for the one that was somewhere on the walls of the castle. Eventually, I found it, though it took me a while to figure out which spot the photo was actually showing me. Sometime around then, I started doing the Tarry Town side quest. It's one of the best side quests I've ever seen in a video game. Although I would say probably the best one ever would be Hearts of Stone, the entire Hearts of Stone DLC in The Witcher 3, really. Tarry Town is just so incredibly rewarding. And it's kinda crazy that you can completely miss it if you don't pay attention. I imagine a non-insignificant portion of players might have missed the NPC that starts it. The memory that sticks out the most in my mind is this one, the one in the middle of the Field of Fallen Guardians. It was an incredible setting. And if that wasn't good enough, the memory you get out of it is a really, really good scene. I wanted to explore the Gerudo Desert a little bit more, find out how far I could go. Every other end of the map has a natural obstacle. The huge cliffs, the large canyon that you cannot glide into because of the strong winds, the ocean. But the desert? You could do something on foot maybe. And then you see that skeleton with the Great Fairy underneath. And that was such a nice surprise to find. Really, really cool moment. And here's me doing some more things for Tarry Town. I can't remember the actual specifics of the quests that well. I think it mostly had to do with finding settlers and convincing them to come live in the town. I remember that at some point there was a really cool wedding scene between a man and a Gerudo lady. It was actually very touching somehow, and it had this nice version of the theme that was played on a wedding organ. After I was fully through with the Tariton questline, I resumed my hunt for the last few missing memories. Another memory here in the ruins of this ancient lab, and it's one of the best ones, and it also has what I would say is the best song, which I'm gonna play just now. Another memory here at the Spring of Power. And what I did before dropping the game for 2 years was paragliding down the canyon into what is probably the best lead up to any shrine in the game, the Forgotten Temple. It almost has like a Shadow of the Colossus vibe to it, I would say. And this is when I started the Champion's Ballad DLC. In this first part, you are locked to the Great Plateau again, and you get a weapon that makes you one-shot kill everything. But here's the thing, you also are susceptible to getting one-shot killed by anything. You have to clear 4 monster encampments around the area, each of which reveals a new shrine. And I always really ignored the monster encampments throughout the world in the main game, so I really didn't have much experience with how to deal with them. So I really didn't have a good time, as evidenced by the sheer number of deaths you are seeing on screen right now. And here's the thing, I said I dropped the game for 2 years, right? No, I just checked in my emails. I purchased the DLC in December of 2017. And when I just died 10 times in a row in the Forest of Spirits, coupled with the horrible performance because of that area with all the effects, it was just like 15 FPS galore. It just was very unpleasant. So, yeah. But recently I found out that Breath of the Wild had a full soundtrack release in the mid-2018, 5 CD, every single track. And listening to it made me kind of nostalgic for the game. I really missed it. And the sequel had just been announced at E3, right? And I'm really excited for that sequel now, even more than I just, kept playing the game. And yeah, that made me dust off my Wii U and pick up the game again and power through that stretch of the new quest that was really giving me a hard time. And man, I am really glad I did! I have been having a really fun time completing the DLC, and as I alluded to at the beginning of the video, this time I saw that they added this Hero's Path feature. It made me realize that, wow, I have missed so much in this game. I have missed a lot of sightseeing. So many places I haven't seen that I just didn't go to. Sure, I might have seen them from far away, but they looked barren or boring or empty, and I figured, I won't bother. But again, this time I made sure that I would go there on purpose. I would do detours, lengthy detours, to try to cover all of these areas that my previous journeys had not taken me to. And again, I'm really glad I did. It really was worthwhile, I would say. And in spite of me doing that, I still have a lot of places I haven't seen. So I'll probably go back to it a little more until I at least see everything. And I guess it'll keep me happy until the sequel happens. It's a bit of a shame that this feature is gated behind the DLC, because I really think, if Breath of the Wild was a website, that's your browser history, man. this is like a better way to do a checklist, a better bucket list of the whole game in a way. Because I mean, the 900 Koroks? Screw that, man. Well, I guess those really would be taking you all over the map. But then again, how would you keep track of the places you haven't been and have been without this feature? But at least I'm glad it's there. That puzzle with the statue in the East Gerudo ruins, I thought it was related to one of the new quests, but it just isn't. It was tricky enough that it was one of the few times I actually took notes outside of a game. Yeah, you see these 3 big islands there? Kinda reminds me of, was it something in Phantom Hourglass, perhaps? I got fond memories of playing Phantom Hourglass because I had it on my DS Lite back when I spent a couple months in the hospital. But yeah, these 3 little islands really remind me of Phantom Hourglass for some reason. I need to get around to visiting them for sure. Here's when I started to really visit the Gerudo wasteland / mountains that I had ignored the first time around. You know, come to think of it, I'm pretty sure I visited Terry Town more than any other town. And right there is when I finished the DLC. And that's it. What a game, man. Just what a game. And I still definitely want to see some more of it, as you can see by this full map. I still got a bunch to see until the sequel comes out. And yeah, replaying the game, playing what I didn't finish in the game really has given me a newfound appreciation for it. And yeah, like I said, I'm just really eager to see where the sequel is gonna take us. Well, I hope you found this video interesting? A little bit, at least. It's pretty personal, I know, but yeah. Anyway, thanks, take care, and have a good day, or night, or week, or month, or whatever. Bye.